Hello friends! Today's tutorial shows how to align objects with grid lines in Microsoft Word. You can use the grid lines to align movable objects such as pictures, shapes, icons, WordArt, text boxes, charts, SmartArt, and 3D models. First, we'll turn on the grid lines. Then we'll adjust the grid line settings, including their size and snapping behavior. Finally, we'll align objects with the grid lines. I'll be using Word for Microsoft 365. These steps also apply to the recent non-subscription versions of the software. These steps don't apply to Word for Mac, Word for the web, or Word for mobile. To turn on the grid lines, begin by selecting the View tab. From there, ensure that you're viewing your document in the Print Layout view. Then select Grid Lines in the Show group. The grid line should now appear in your document. To adjust the grid line settings, first insert an object into your document. If you already have an object in your document, select it. Then select the Shape Format, Picture Format, or Format tab in the ribbon if you don't move there automatically. This is a contextual tab based on the type of object you selected. This tab won't appear until an object is selected. Next, select Align in the Arrange group, followed by Grid Settings from the drop-down menu. When the Grid and Guidelines dialog box appears, select Snap Objects to Other Objects if you want objects to connect as you move them. Use caution with this setting because it can make precise placement difficult. Next, enter measurements into the horizontal spacing and vertical spacing text boxes to change the size of the grid. Enter the same number into both text boxes if you want to maintain squares. Before we move on, it's important to note that the unit of measurement will be the same unit used in the ruler. To change the unit of measurement, please see my previous tutorial on that topic, which will be linked below. Next, uncheck Use Margins if you don't want the grid to be confined to the area within the margins. You can then enter measurements into the horizontal origin and vertical origin text boxes. These measurements represent where the grid will start from the edges of the page. Enter a 0 if you want the grid to cover the entire page. You can also enter an occurrence into the vertical every and horizontal every text box. For example, if you only want every third vertical line to appear, enter a 3 into the vertical every text box. Or uncheck vertical every if you only want the horizontal lines to appear. Conversely, you can check vertical every and enter a 0 into the horizontal every text box if you only want the vertical lines to appear. By default, objects that you move will be snapped to the nearest visible grid line. However, snap objects to grid when the grid lines are not displayed moves the objects to the nearest grid line even when the grid lines are not visible. After making your choices, you can select the Save as Default button if you want to save these settings for future use. Lastly, select the OK button. The grid line should now appear according to the selected settings. To align an object with the grid lines, select the object, and then select the Layout Options button. From there, select a With Text Wrapping option. Square or tight will be best for most situations. Ensure that Inline with Text is not selected because it will prevent the object from moving. Then, click, hold, and drag the object to the desired location. If you decide that you don't want the object to snap to the grid, press and hold the Alt key on your keyboard while dragging the object. When you're finished, you can turn off the grid lines by returning to the View tab, and then unchecking grid lines. However, grid lines are not printable, so they won't show up in printed documents even if you choose to leave them turned on. And as always, remember to save your file to save your changes. All the steps we just performed are listed on my website at erinwritewriting.com, which is linked in the description box below, along with my complete playlist, How to Use Microsoft Word. Feel free to leave me a comment if there's a specific topic that you'd like me to cover in the future. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss upcoming tutorials. And give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching.